Grand Rising, Grand Evening, Grand Afternoon. Listening to Sade and Luther Vandross, and I was like, I'm gonna go on live while I get ready and customize my avatar today. This is my outfit. Invader Zim, right? If you know, you know. That's how I'm feeling as of lately. Extremely alien, you know? I don't want to get copyright, though. I would like my lives to be shared. And then later on, I'm going to go over some messages from the Buddha that the temple that I used to go to in Burke gave out. And then I have some note cards here. But yeah. So yeah, I'm just gonna vibe really. And look, my beautiful Eye of Horus necklace got. I don't know what that's even called because it's not rust. I'm sad about it. Like I wore it, and literally that part going against my neck made it a little red. I was like, no. So sad. I drank some water. It's 12:08, and I'm like, okay, I'm also waiting for my tea to steep. This mint dandelion root ginger herbal tea. I think there's something else in it, but yeah, those are the most notable. And I'm trying to do this to transition from the intermittent fasting to just doing teas and like herbal drinks. I want to be able to do that for at least a week to really just get myself right internally. So my stomach might growl, but if you've ever fasted for more than a few days or done intermittent fasting, then you'll understand, right? And I should probably pick up the heating pad off the floor, actually. Just put on my bed. But clearly, I'm speaking to you from the perspective of Jazziel, of the perspective of someone who just wants to speak and be heard. And I made a live stream 3 days ago that was, thank you for that comment. And I made a just kind of like live stream that was kind of emotionally triggering, kind of emotionally charged. But it was definitely necessary to release it, I just want to make sure I put the sun in the sky today. Because I put the sun in the sky. I protect my third eye. Shout out to the solar energy. And I'm just gonna play this on loop, really. Because this was stuck in my head when I woke up. I was like, oh. And then I listened to the original Luther Vandross song, and I was like, no. It's literally this version. Someone did like a loop of Luther Vandross. But anyway, that lighting change was crazy. But I'm just gonna do a few things on live and talk, and then go over messages from the Buddha. But yeah. Are you gonna be in love with me? I want you to need you to be still in love with me. And I stayed up late last night too, just like crying and scripting and just releasing a lot of stuff. So, and someone in the chat said it, but thank you for the likes. I don't celebrate Christmas personally. The emojis are funny. I'm practicing Buddhist as of now at the moment, but I'm also just an indigenous believer of, living with nature and the cycles of nature. So I celebrated the winter solstice, right? And I teach people how to ground as a grounding coach. And let me get my business card to show you how official I am. Hold on 1 second. Because I have 3 different versions. Hold on. I have to pause the music for this. But people who my day is going well. Thank you for asking. But I slept in. So yeah. Okay, let me just start over. So I'm waiting for my tea to steep, right? Doing intermittent fasting. I'm gonna get ready, do stuff with my hair, then share messages from the Buddha. Okay? But myself personally, I do not practice religion in the aspect of you have to do this or else you're not a good person, right? So I practice indigenous living and being in harmony with the cycles of nature. The people who are subscribed to my channel and watch my content from TikTok to here or from real life events to here, and they watch my page and my post, they kind of understand like a little bit of more of what I'm passionate about. But this was my first business card through Vistaprint, and I just realized the camera's flipped, so I need to do it on the back. So this was the first one, all right, and then this is the second one, and it has a typo on my email, so I didn't put all of these out, but yeah, anyway. And then these are the most recent ones. So grounding coach. And I tried to be like, as you can see, like with the progression, like I tried to be all fancy and be like, oh, spiritual mentor, or a specialist. And then people didn't understand that. So I'm like, holistic health professional, grounding coach. And then these are the benefits. Because also I live in a really small town. And guess what? 250 of these, I passed them out at businesses and such, and nobody has emailed me. I think I have like 13 left. And I was really sad about that because I'm like, these cards are literally too good to be wasted. So I just stopped handing them out. And people also don't take holistic health seriously when you are in a small town or in like the religious Bible Belt area, So not to, be negative, right? Never want to do that. Always want to be aware and grateful of what you have, right? But I also don't want to be fake and just be like, yeah, that's cool, when it's not. Especially because I know it works. I know indigenous ways of living works. I know being in harmony with nature and the whole web of life works, like genuinely, right? So to me, I just find it a little bit strange how people kind of just disregard truth or knowledge because they're like, oh, well, if my pastor didn't say it, or oh, um, what are the details and the ins and outs of what you do and what you teach? Like, okay. And then I taught a community workshop, and then people still weren't really interested. They're like, they'd rather go and buy pizza at that time, go to the liquor store, nearby, go to a sports game, watch football at their house, literally just do whatever. Like, I had a neighbor, hello, and thank you for the likes. I had a neighbor who literally just worked at, one of the stores nearby. And I put the sign up and I invited them and their son, because they both worked at the store, right? And they're like, oh, yeah, we don't have time. We don't have time. By the time I get home, I'm so tired. And then I was like, oh, there's a class, I'm headed to class or whatever that I was teaching. When I would leave my house, they're like, hey, how's it going? I was like, hey, it's going good, just going to the class, hope to see you there, or hope to see you, next time, because I did it on Tuesday and Thursday. So I made it a point to literally tell people, put out flyers, go to city hall meetings, talk about it, all this stuff. And people would literally just lie in your face and be like, oh, yeah, that's cool. Or, oh, yeah, tell me more about it. And literally that's it. But people know that I'm knowledgeable, like literally a whole bunch of networking has been the positive, side of being here and doing these things. But it's a cute emoji. So it's just like I had to kind of refocus and go back within and be like, you know what? It's not that the practices are off. It's not that the practices are kind of new. It's just that people have such colonized minds. And every single time I talk about this, it always leads back to I don't like living in the United States, to be quite honest. And I know there's so much with social media and tech and people coming to the United States for asylum or freedom or whatever they deem necessary to live here, right? But then it's like you go out into the world and you're like, wait, how is it freedom that we live here and we're disconnected to the natural cycles of life? How is it freedom when we are sick from the foods and the conversations and the society and the media? How is it freedom that just because we get to live in a house that's maybe quiet or comfortable or has, I don't know, because I don't know. I'm not trying to just say, oh, America's the best and everywhere else is a underdeveloped country, because that's certainly not the facts. It just, that's what people make it seem like. I didn't get anything for Christmas because I don't celebrate. Thanks for asking, though. Anyway, it's like I feel like people don't really realize the gravity of their ignorance and the fact that they're just disconnected, like they're not in harmony with themselves. And it's actually quite tough to do this as a profession, because I'm literally, even with life coaching or personal training, like the stuff I was trying to do before, and just focus on that. And I'm like, no, we could, put these two together. And it turns out there is a like a doctorate, like professional degree, which is occupational therapy, and it helps people do day-to-day activities and figure out, how to recover and, work and live their life smoothly. And I was like, wow, that's really cool that, there's a combination of those two things for people out there. But I also, did more research, and it's like mostly people who are athletes or, do sports type of um, background. I don't know specifically how to word it, but it's like mostly people who are athletes would go to an occupational therapist or people in schools. So it's like, okay, I didn't really think I had a target demographic, but those are not really the type of people I want to help. I really wanted to do like more family mental health, psychiatric type of work. But then I'm looking into it, and the systems in place, um, like they don't budge, and they also don't, um, what's it call it? They don't have a lot of funding for things that are considered holistic or woo woo, I was told. Um, Crazy, I know, right? Um, or budgets for things that are like not considered traditional. And I could explain it like, what I do, what I teach, how I help people, and I have these presentations and these community workshops, and then it's like, um, you know, oh, that's cool. Oh, okay, here, you're interested in it? Yeah, I really like the presentation. Oh, that's great to hear. Here's my business card. I do this do the same thing, that I just taught, but with you personally. So it's like I'm not trying to just push a get rich, here's a program, do it, type of thing, but it's like literally my morals have boxed me out of a lot of money. And I don't mean it like I could quantify the money, but if I were someone who were just, oh, sorry, I just realized I'm covering my little background here. But if I were someone who just slightly tweaked my outlook on life and tried to just be a capitalist and sell, 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 and make money, it's like, yeah, I could put together a personal training program on strength training or resistance training or, what's that called? Balance and mobility training, I think. Um, but then it's the same with life coaching. Like, oh, people maybe they want life coaching tips. Make a program for that about, reparenting yourself, about handling your emotions when, you don't feel you're emotionally regulated enough, or, just blah, 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 right? For people who are they're like, who is this? Just joining. It's so funny. But for the people who, again, who are subscribers and keep up with my content, you know, my journey, I guess. Um, it's just difficult to be someone who has morals and integrity in a place that wants to just make people sick and keep them in a system. Because my whole thing is like, I want you to know how you can become grounded. I want you to know how you could make yourself healthier and stronger, with training. And I want you to make your mind stronger with mental fortitude and, being able to just work through what issues come up in your life coaching, personal training, grounding coaching, spiritual mentorship. I do that for free. Like I literally go online and I tell people like in comments, or I make a post about something, and then people are like, oh my gosh, I need to do shadow work, that was cool. Or just seeing stuff on my feed pop up, and it's like, oh yeah, let me make a video about that. And I'll do stuff for free and share my experience online, like, oh, this is my testimonial. But it's like, if you live in America or in the Western culture, that it's not bartering and trading. It's not, let me give you wisdom, I'm an elder, or I know more, or I've experienced more, you're younger, or you're not as experienced as me, so you're going to come to me. No, it's like, oh, let me go online, let me, look to technology. Let me just say it like that. And people look to technology. They want to network online. They want to post business stuff online. They want to, you know, just do stuff without person to person events or person to person interactions. They'd rather, oh, go on live. Here's a live goal. Here's a live incentive on, apps. Or, oh, here, post this hashtag for a chance to win a grand prize, or, you know, go into the next tier of posting and lives. And it's like, I'm genuinely, and I'm not trying to be negative either. I'm just talking about my experience, right? But it's like, what direction are people and society headed in, truthfully? And then it's like people, they don't see the severity of how people live in the United States and Western culture. Because you can go on vacation, you go to Switzerland right now. People do not feel the way that we feel about anything. You can go to China right now. They do not feel how we feel about anything. You can go to what's another popular place right now? What's it like? Brazil, Portugal, right? Like you go to these lavish places. They're popular. They're touristy. They're also very cultured. They have a lot of just stuff to do in the public, events, music, whatever. And it's like, that's what is missing here. The comprehension that community is what keeps people grounded and healthy. So we're out here medicated, drugged up, separated, divided, and just listening to stuff online instead of going outside. And it's like, unless you live on a university campus or in a wellness, holistic wellness space, like a spa, massage studio, esthetician's office, or rehabilitation, um, physical therapy place. Like, there are very, very, very few places that actually care about people and will be gentle with them. Um, in terms of just society and the medical spaces, right? And then you go into art and artistry, right? And it's like, I'm laughing at some of the comments. Oh my goodness. And then you go and look into art and artistry, and it's like crabs in the bucket mentality. And I truly don't get that. Like, why does someone have to make, you know, not make, but why does someone have to copy off of someone else, right? Why can't they just make their own music, their own style, right? Same with fashion. Like, there's music, fashion, art, all of these things. Like, I don't get why it's so competitive, and why there can't just be an art community where people make art and thrive, right? Or similarly, why can't there be an animal community where we take care of animals and we thrive together in harmony, right? And yeah, that's it. If you come to my res and go to ceremony, where are you? You have a long name too. Where are you located? I would love to know. But that's the thing too, like, the indigenous practices and indigenous ways of living is just like, I don't want to say it's being stomped out. I North Philly, Philly, Philly. What? F Filli? Fil? What? Bro, what? What? Okay, buddy, You're gonna go on timeout if you keep spamming, because I have no idea what you're talking about in these comments. I'm in Arizona in Window Rock. Oh, okay, okay. Oh, that's cool. Arizona. Considering that polling system. What? But anyway, some of y'all are in the comments talking to yourselves, I guess. But anyway, it's like, I know I would thrive if I were in an indigenous community or people who just lived off the land. Like my grandfather, who just passed away, well, both of them passed away this year, but my grandfather on my mother's side, he literally had two families, right? But he kept them together on a farm. Like, you guys do this stuff on a farm, you guys do this stuff on the other side of the farm. And it's like, people, they all lived off the land. Character aside, that's absolutely crazy lore, right? But they lived off the land, no matter how many people were in the family, no matter how many people were no matter how many kids he had. I honestly think he has like 15 kids. But I don't know, because I haven't been to DR since 2016. But anyway, it's like, no matter how bad their situation in life was, they just lived off the farm. They raised the chickens, they used the tractor to plow the fields, they tilled the soil, and then they went to school, and then they came back and lived on a farm. So, can you go back? Don't understand? What do you not understand, bro? Like, bro, like, I'm literally connecting different pieces of what I'm talking about in topics. Like, be specific. So yeah, it's like, I just feel like I'm a really old soul. Like, and people are talking about, oh, spiritual awakening, star seeds, all this stuff, like, you know, living life. And it's just like, okay, how do we live life if we feel like we're an old soul? How do we feel like living life if we are someone who is just doesn't see life the same way as society does, or the same way that religious people do, And it just baffles me that when we come together, it's not a coming together in community of understanding or in a community of love. It's like small talk, holidays, talk about work, talk about how hard our life is, and then just move on. And I'm like, I don't want to live in a society that complains and is miserable, I genuinely, and I'm going to put Luther Vandross back on, I forgot. But it's like, I genuinely don't want to feel like I'm the odd one out just because I want to have a relationship with the earth the way that my elders did and my ancestors did. Similarly, I don't want to feel like I'm crazy or just don't want to do what everyone else is doing. And, I do deserve to live in a community that is harmonious, just like everyone does. I deserve to be respected for the practices that I'm continuing, that were passed down to me, But also at the same time, again, it's like other places don't have these perspectives, let's just say. And there are pockets of, people and communities that live the tribal and indigenous ways, and take care of the land, but it's like they're still bound by the government here in a way to get funding, to pay for things, to feel secure in certain ways, you know. I saw an article, it was like recently, there was, I think it was the Lumbee tribe, but it was something close to that if it wasn't the Lumbee. And it was like they've spent over 100 years plus trying to just get federally recognized. And I'm like, I saw the article and I was like, oh. And I'm like, does that help them? What does that do for them? Because this was originally their land. So to me, seeing an article like, oh, the colonizer recognized you as sovereign and as people, like tribal people, I guess. I'm like, I don't understand that. And I live in Comanche County right now, you know, very indigenous, very much so, you know, native indigenous to this area and their practices. But then it's like, you look around, it's like, I'm in Comanche County, but I'm in capitalism. It's like, I'm literally in capitalism still. Like, there's police, there's homeless people, there's businesses, there's, you know, really, you know, there's just parking lots and cement and litter and churches. Oh my gosh, are there so many churches? It's ridiculous. And it's mostly just a bunch of old white people that go to those churches. Or people who have assimilated out of their culture. Like a lot of Hispanic and a few indigenous communities literally teach at a church. And I'm like, how did that even happen, bro? How did that even happen? And then it's like, Spirit reminds me, not everyone is like you. Not everyone is on your level of thinking or operating, and I have to have compassion so much. But then it's like, I don't know. Like, I just genuinely know I would fit in if I were around, you know, again, if I were around elders or people who cared for the land. I would not have half of the mental conflicting type of issues that I do have while living here in the States. And I've been feeling this way for so long. Again, like, people are like, oh, you're an old soul, you're a empath, you're a da-da-da-da-da, you know? And I'm just like, I'm literally just me. Like, just turned 27, and I feel like I've lived, you know, obviously longer than that. But I just feel like I'm so wise from experience. And then, you know, you get around older people and you start correcting them or saying like, oh, you know, what you're eating is da-da-da-da-da in family, for example, or, you know, talking to them about their emotions or how they, you know, come across to others, and, you know, talking about things instead of just joking and being immature, or, you know, ignoring it. And then it's like, oh, well, you know, it's not respectful to do that in our culture. And it's like, how are you going to talk about culture when you don't even practice it? You just assimilated out of the culture and you don't want to ruffle feathers. Like, I am healthy and sober. I am, yep. I have not smoked nothing since the 19th of this month. I got some birthday J's, and they lasted almost a week, so. And really, I smoked to just let the time pass, because I'm like, I know I'm about to transition into a different area, but man, if I were to, you know, have one wish granted and just, hey, move me to a place that I could live and be in harmony with the earth and myself, because I genuinely, and having those literally confirmation, it's driving me crazy sometimes, to feel like the emotional conflict of wanting to help people and wanting to help them ground, but then the people don't really view it as medicinal or helpful because of assimilation and colonization. And honestly, my greatest accomplishment personally is to decolonize my mind. Spiritually, it's, dealing with spiritual matters like exercising myself and reconnecting with, certain parts. But I don't want to get into my lineage and personal things there. So it's like for me, I've taken that part out of me that's like, oh, just chases drugs and sex and validation through how much attention I could get or how many shifts I could secure at this job, like, oh, I have a full-time job now. I work 5-6 days a week, but you don't have any life. And you want to, numb your feelings and just watch YouTube and go to sleep and repeat, or, being in hermit mode from that. And I think that's not talked about enough, truly. People go into hermit mode when they become successful in these states. And they're like, oh, let me just go out to work, to the store, to one other place, and then stay at home and not think about anything. Then they go online and everything's there. They can't ignore it, right? So much so to the point where people feel like their only form of validation is to be online sometimes. And then they get into these personas, right? I'll be right back. And the personas and identity shifting isn't talked about as much either. They wait till you get to an extreme point of, not feeling like you're able to integrate into society or not able to practice responsible self-care behavior, I guess is a way to word it. But it's genuinely just something that I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around. Because I'm like, I don't want to work in a hospital because I know the procedures they do is not to actually help people. It's just to check the boxes. Just like an addiction recovery center, a psych ward, a hospital, stuff like that. Like, they're not actually helping people's spirits, so their bodies, are being treated, and the symptoms, are being treated. Not all of them, right? But some of them are being treated, and, they don't get to the root cause of things, so their spirits are still, scattered, their psyche is fragmented, and, the body keeps a score. So it's like, for me, I'm like, okay, I know how to fix people from the root up, right? From the spirit down, from the root up, I know how to create an entirely different person within less than a year, but if you do it 1 week at a time, then it takes a year. And it's weird. The other thing is weird about it is you have to have relationships and connections to actually get to the places that you want to go. And if you're not, like for me, zipping this up, just as I was about to point out, as someone who's non-binary doesn't fit in with gender norms or social constraints like that. um, it's a bit weird when people try to box me into just, oh, you're pretty, or oh, you're just a young person, or oh, you're some dainty little girl. And it's like, I don't even see myself as a girl. I don't even see myself as a woman most of the time. Um, I see myself as two spirit, as gender fluid. So, like, it was I went to a Christmas Eve party with my family because my grandmother is passing away soon. Um, so when my mom invited me excuse me, I waited a bit. I meditated. I said, you know what? If it's meant to happen, it's gonna happen. If it's not, I don't want to do it. I don't want to be fake, right? And let me just pause this so I can think. Actually, and I went to this Christmas Eve party, and I'll get into the details of that a little bit more. Because I thought I was going to talk about it in the beginning, and here I am 41 minutes in, right? But it was like my cousin came up to me while they were doing the Secret Santa or the Santa Exchange, whatever that gift game is, right? And whatchamacallit, and he came up to me, and they're visiting from Florida, right? So he came up to me, he was like, oh, hey, Jaziel, do you go by any other pronouns or anything? I was like, yes, I do. He goes, oh, what are they? I want to, be respectful. I was like, they, them is fine, I'm fine with any pronouns, really. I just prefer they, them. I just prefer androgyny and trans, non-binary, two-spirit, all of those things, like gender fluid. I actually prefer to live in a society that has no gender, that just learns how to, strengthen both their masculine and feminine energy to have that balance, because that's truthfully what we all have. We all have masculine energy within us. We all have feminine energy within us, right? It's the same thing with religion. Like, they try to constrain things and put things in a box, but really we all have that within us, right? So yeah, I could go on so long about that, but anyway, let me just go back to the topic, right? Let's go back. And it's like they were asking me about pronouns, and I'm like, yeah, thank you, they, them. And I was like, I threw my uncle under the bus too. I was like, yeah, my, so and so. But they were like 2 feet away from us, like, so they heard us, right? And I made sure to say it, but not say too much, because Spirit, again, with this Christmas Eve party, Spirit said, your grandmother's gonna pass soon. Just go there, watch your words. I was like, okay. And I literally was arguing with my mom about something else, about getting water for the house because she's so busy. But anyway, not to talk about personal stuff, but yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, so she dropped off the filtered water jugs after she refilled them for here. And it's mostly for me, because I'm the one who stays at home the most, and my mother visits her boyfriend and her sick, dying mother right now, and extended family that lives in the next city over, while I stay here in this small town and just be creative and rest and wait for things to come in. Anyway, so in this conversation with my cousin, he was like, oh, I heard that, you're non-binary, and I just want to respect your pronouns. Okay, I'll try to go by them, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, thank you, because my uncle so-and-so was supposed to tell everyone in the family, but they're homophobic and transphobic. So, yeah. And I could give two about that uncle because literally those people choose to live in misery. Um, but that's what assimilation does. Like, assimilation literally lets you think that a toxic family dynamic is fine. It lets you think that not respecting the ways of living and how people lived off of the land instead of going to get treatments and medicine and going to doctors that are just trying to take your money and not helping your life, right? And I knew that my grandmother was passing away intuitively before, and I was like, let me just, keep my distance, let me stay here and let her transition um, because of personal reasons, right? But it's like, no matter what happens with family, I'm always reminded that they didn't choose to connect with themselves. They didn't choose to follow the path of our ancestors. They chose to just be comfortable and assimilate and live off of family because they're not even really comfortable. They're just literally living in survival mode and not really, I don't know. I don't want to roast them. But it's very apparent how much I work with my ancestors and have answered the call, so to speak. But again, it's like I'm frustrated, I'm disgruntled, and I feel all of their energy and the things that they didn't, work through. So it's like the stagnant energy and the unhealed energy still, is palpable. And I'm not trying to make it a point of being mean or cruel, but like you could just look at them and tell like they're not doing good. Like their bodies reflect their internal state. So, just looking at someone's puffed up face or, you know, nobody's pregnant, but you'd think three people were. You'd think two men and a few women were pregnant with the way that they eat and just they talk about health concerns, health problems. Oh, this hurts, that hurts. Oh, I can't. Da da da. It's like, well, go vegan, eat plant-based. No, I don't want to do that. It's just too much. Okay, okay, then you're gonna still suffer, right? And it's like they go to church and they do these holidays, these American bullshit holidays, and they send their kids to school and then send their kids to work, and that's it. And then, oh, we don't see family, we don't talk to family, blah blah blah, blase blase. And then me, the standing on business one, but me, the one who's like, this is wrong, or you're not living the right way, or that was fucked up, or you're lying about this, and bring it to people's attention. It's like, whoa, you cause chaos, or you make people uncomfortable, or that's not right. The way that our culture is, that's not right. And it's like, what culture are you following? Truthfully, you're saying our culture, my culture, and it's like, that's not mine. It's not mine. I don't want to be an American. I don't want to be in a westernized, colonized country ever. Even if it's not a Western country, I don't care. I don't want to be in a country that tells me that saying the truth, speaking up for the truth, sharing, with integrity, and being really direct with people, and not celebrating bullshit fake holidays and fake gods and things that were renamed. Like, I don't want to do that. It's not me, right? If I get a cavity, I'm not seeing the fucking dentist. I'm gonna chew on some boiled cloves, drink clove water, and fast. And obviously brush my teeth and floss and all that stuff. But I'm going to seek an herbal remedy, right? Just like when I got cancer. Did going to the doctor help me? No, it didn't. It didn't. Did me seeing certain specialists and going to ERs or urgent care facilities help me with having a hip out of place, with having certain skin deformities, with having certain issues with my kidney or my liver? No, it didn't, right? Try not to curse on this live, but no, it didn't. Genuinely. So to drive people to medical appointments, to hear, oh, so and so's in the hospital, so and so's getting treatment for years and years and years and years, and they still aren't healthy today. It's like a really strange place to be in, because nobody wants to hear, oh, you were right, you're effed up, or you're not healthy, from someone who's younger than you, who you perceive life is just completely great and dandy and fine for. Meanwhile, I just don't share all the things that have come up for me in my life. I don't share my struggles, and I'm gonna put on some solfeggio frequencies in the background while I speak. And I was listening to this one last night, and it was to cut energetic cords and release toxic attachments, clear your field, right? From Mellow Mind, shout out to them, Mellow Mind Collective on YouTube. And it's like, people don't want to hear that they're wrong about their own health. They'd rather literally let their body just what is that phrase? Because I'm like, I think it's let their body go, or let their body rot is what came up to my mind. But they let themselves go. I think that's the phrase, to let themselves go. And it's like, you hear people talk about vegan diets and raw fruits and juicing and smoothies and all this stuff, and it's like, oh, fruit has too much sugar, or where are you gonna get your protein, or that's too expensive to do here. And it's like, people make up so many excuses just to not live better, or they just want to listen to whatever primary care doctor told them, or whatever health class in school said about whatever was going on. Like, and it's really sad, because it's like, it's not just that I know that it works and I know more than them. I've experienced the personal connection with my ancestors. I've experienced being literally moments away from dying and having to be like, what is my intuition saying right now? I haven't even turned 30. What? I'm not passing away before I turn 30. Let me meditate. Let me ask nature, right? And it's never like I've had to search for the answer like minutes away from passing. But it was like, hey, your health is not getting better. Hey, you need to quit this job. Hey, you need to, reevaluate your life, review your life, rethink some things, because being addicted to get through the day or the night, being someone who seeks and searches answers, but it's behind paywalls or behind referrals or connections, and it's like, people could literally die waiting for an appointment. People could literally pass away just because they didn't know proper nutrition, right? People pass away so quickly nowadays. And then it's like, oh, well, everybody's going through something. No. Everybody has their own journey to follow, and when they step off that journey, step off that path, then you get sick. Absolutely. When you don't tend to your emotional state, it shows up in a physical way. But people want to ignore the emotions. They want to ignore the thinking process. They want to ignore the actions that they're taking based off of their thoughts, right? They want to ignore their entire livelihood and the way that they view the world and the mindset that they carry until it shows up as a physical sickness. Then they get a little concerned and they're like, oh, my doctor said this, I have to go on this treatment, take this medication, take this injection, have surgery, whatever. They literally, to me, I don't fuck with needles. I'm sorry, curse. I do not like needles. I don't want to go through surgery. So for people to, that's their default. Oh, I have to do this. I have to take a blood test. I have to. It's like, why though? Like, why is that just something you're completely okay with and acceptable to you? Why? Why would you rather take out your teeth instead of trying to clean it and fix it? Why would you rather constantly go shopping at a store when you don't even need that food in the first place? Why would you feel that living in a rat race survival mode lifestyle, full-time work, part-time self, why do you feel like that's just okay because other people do it? I don't know why, myself, personally. I don't know why. I don't know why people go through hell internally just to make it seem like they're in heaven externally. I don't know why. I don't. And I believe in reincarnation, right? And that you're here for a purpose and a reason. But I also am like, you know what? If this is the only life or the last life that I have, why would I make any mistakes? Why would I live with any regrets? Why would I live off of the matrixing and the societal setup, let's just say, that other people are just okay with? I'm not okay with it. So I'm not going to participate. Just like I wasn't okay with how people were responding to me or sending texts or talking to me on the phone, ridiculing me. So I'm like, oh, my phone is disconnected. Okay, cool. I don't want to get a job. I'll let my phone get disconnected. Here's the phone. Thank you. Close the account. I didn't even have to pay off my phone. That phone company gave me a credit for how much I owed left on the phone. It was like around 400 left to pay, and I'm like, oh, cool, thank you. Look at how that worked out. Spirit met me halfway. Didn't have to pay for the phone. Close the account. Thank you. Good riddance. Right? And a family member gave me this phone. Only has emergency 911 option, but I email people, I do business, I network, I post. And that's life for me. And I'm very happy with the life that I live. Oh, I paused it. Whoops. I was trying to turn up the volume. I accidentally paused it. And you know what? That's what works for me. I'd rather not be sick. I'd rather not be judged and ridiculed and perceived. And I'd rather not be in a society that says someone dictate my life for me. I'm going to give all my energy out, and the out will dictate for me. And I'm just like, wow. I know other, countries don't live to that extent, right? But I'm really thinking to myself, how much of being online and living in these types of societies has truly formed and shaped my mind to be the way that it is today? And in this solitude and in these moments where I'm by myself, um, here in this small town, and getting family members that visit sometimes. Oh, come in here after school, or oh, before I went to work, let me get my stuff and leave. I don't have to pay rent. I don't have to pay rent. I don't have income coming in, like a full-time job, so I don't pay rent. The only cost that I have is food and a credit card bill. And even with the credit card bill, I'm like, I don't even want a credit card. I don't. Not doing anything with it, really. So it's another thing I've had to realize, like, how much, people think that exerting all of their energy is going to keep them stable or bring some sense of fulfillment or fill that hole and gap in themselves, in their hearts. And it's just like, no, it's not. They're going to have a family or get into a relationship thinking that, oh, the gap there is because I don't have someone to love me. And it's like, the gap is still there after you have that marriage, that second marriage, however many marriages they do, right? I don't know. But after you have that marriage and the gap is still there. Oh, man, I want to have a kid. Okay. You have a kid. That gap is still there. Oh, let me change my jobs. Let me learn some other things, go through these trainings, these programs. Boom. Full-time job, married, and has a kid. Hole is still there. Have another kid. Have another kid. Have another kid. Have another kid. The hole is still there. Move back in with family. The hole is still there. A family doesn't fill a void. Just like a religion doesn't connect you to God, to the Creator, to Source. It's an invitation to look outside of yourself for answers. Where Buddhism, I think, is the only religion, according to the world and society and whatnot, that it is a religion of peace. But Buddhism is a way of life, and it is the child of Hinduism. Hinduism has, I believe, 4 children, but they say Buddhism is the daughter of Hinduism. And Hinduism is really cool if you ignore the statues and rituals, but with yoga, chakras, understanding your heart, understanding your connection to the universe and, infinite source creator, then Hinduism is really cool. Then Hinduism is like, wow, I cracked the code, but you're still here, right? And I had some index cards here. And funny enough, I was channeling Bible verses that spoke about, the truth before they changed it and rearranged it. The freaking Roman Empire shit. Excuse me. Anyway, this is a Bible verse about the world and not conforming. Romans 12, verse 2. Chapter 12, verse 2. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. And Buddhism helped me renew my mind, absolutely. And then Ephesians chapter 4, verse 22 through 24, it says, you were taught with regard to your former way of life, to put off your old self, which is being corrupted by its deceitful desires, the desires of the flesh, right? Desires to be made new in the attitude of your mind, and to put on the new self, created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness. So it's saying to put off your old self, to be made new in the attitude mentally, the attitude of your mind, to put the new self, created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness. And God righteousness means living in the right relationship with the Creator, with relationship to other people and all creation, all animals, all plants, nature, all these things, right? And that's the same thing as animism, which believes that there is a spiritual essence to all things, animals, plants, rocks, the weather, humans, and human creation itself. And when you realize that we are all souls and spirits first, the mind and the flesh and the ways that we live fall away and they don't matter anymore. So I just think it's interesting, like how when I try to look for God, right? But when I try to look for the Creator, all I found was myself. And when I was looking for myself in these religions, I found more of the Creator, no matter what religion I looked into. Because when I was looking within, I found the answers. When I was looking, I almost said without, right? But that's how it feels to me. When you look externally, you are looking like you are without something. But when you look within, you are looking as if you are trying to find yourself. And that is where you find everything. And so the bookmarked part that the index card was in here is on page 22 and 23 of the Messages from Buddha, a little pamphlet that I got. And it says, the third story without the foundation. Once there was a wealthy but foolish man. When he saw the beautiful 3-storied house of another man, he envied it and made up his mind to have one built just like it. Thinking he was himself just as wealthy, he called the carpenter and ordered him to build it. The carpenter consented and immediately began to construct the foundation, the first story, second story, and then the third story. The wealthy man noticed this with irritation and said, I don't want a foundation or a first story or a second story. I just want the beautiful third story. Build it quickly. A foolish man always thinks only of the results and is impatient without the effort that is necessary to get good results. No good can be attained without proper effort, just as there can be no third story without the foundation and the first and the second stories. And that's crazy, right? Hearing someone say, I don't want a foundation, I just want that third story, right? Crazy. You can't build without a foundation. Obviously, we know this. But it's also hinting at the impatience of people. They want the transformation without the shadow work. They want the elevation without changing their mindset. They want the hot body without working out. They want the family, right? They want the perfect family, the perfect relationship without mending that hole in themselves to even receive something similar, right? Because if you're insecure and avoidant and controlling and abusive and anxious and all these things that we say we don't want to be, it's going to reflect back in your relationships. So if you're marrying someone who is mirroring that unhealed part of yourself and you have children with this person, you're multiplying that original insecurity, that original feeling of lack mindset, lack mentality. And the more you put something off, the bigger it becomes later. Um, so just like I was talking about with health, just like I was talking about with just noticing my family, the more that they put off their health, you know, the more they are trying to rush a 3-story building without foundation for it. And obviously, it's going to take a really long time to build without proper foundation. And when your foundation is not there, or when you don't have proper materials, set on your foundation, it crumbles. 111 as I just look up at the timer. Wow. But your foundation crumbles. And what you're building falls down. It's what in the tarot community they call a tower moment. And tower moments are extremely necessary to change our mindsets. And the way that our soul is put together and wired, just like, no, let me rephrase that. The way that our soul's blueprint is designed is similarly to how our bodies are wired. Very divine, very interconnected, very purposeful, right? But when we don't look at our individual uniqueness and the things that our soul is meant to do, that human design, that human aspect of us, that matrixing, the things that were passed down from our family, their beliefs or sicknesses or lifestyles, becomes our responsibility, no matter what foundation you were given. And again, you could be someone similar to me that has way more intelligence and experience with healing and with understanding things at a bigger picture and being in harmony with nature, right? And still be outcasted by your family because they don't want to change, because they don't want to see things from your perspective. And for me, my biggest struggle, similarly with working, is to not have that hardening of the heart, is to not have that, feeling of, well, whatever, F you, and just being like, well, okay, cool, and move on. It's tough to not take things personally when you feel like you want to make things not that I want to make everything personal, but it's like I want to put so much care and effort and connectedness. Like, I want to have people who feel like they belong and that they matter and that their body, mind, spirit, soul, all of it is important, not just to live off of their family's expectations or rat race or whatever is being funded or pushed in the public with technology and culture in the way that we see it today. Confirmation, excuse me. So I'm going to read the second story here on page 23. It's the tail and the head. At one time, the tail and the head of the snake quarreled as to which should be the front. The tail said to the head, "You are always taking the lead. It is not fair. You ought to let me lead sometimes." The head answered, "It is the law of our nature that I should be the head. I cannot change places with you." But the quarrel went on, and one day the tail fastened itself to a tree, and thus prevented the head from proceeding. When the head became tired with the struggle, the tail had its own way, with the result that the snake fell into a pit of fire and perished. In the world of nature, there always exists an appropriate order, and everything has its own function. If this order is disturbed, the functioning is interrupted, and the whole order will go to ruin. So, in this story, a snake was arguing with itself, and the tail wanted to lead. So, it took drastic measures and waited for the head to stop fighting, and then the tail took the lead. And the tail, not having sight or as much senses as the head, obviously, fell into a trap and lost its life, was burned to death, right? So when you lead yourself out of blindness and out of arrogance, let's just say, and out of the ways of the natural order of things, as you heard at the end, you will be destroyed. You will ruin your entire being. And nature will have to correct you. Because everything has its own function and everything is properly in balance when we all practice our natural functions, our nature. Right? Just like I cannot be fake and not be myself. I cannot. I can't. It's not in my nature. That's a phrase for a reason. It's not in my nature to be this way, to do this, to think this way. It's not in my nature to hold my tongue when people are lying about me. It's not in my nature to go back and forth with someone who I know is not perceiving me correctly. It's not in my nature to sit and waste my time and life and precious energy at a place that does not value me or my time. Right? I can be a supervisor, a manager, a director, a store owner, store whatever. Right? I could sit here and go to a job and work my way up from the bottom and waste about 10 years of my life. And then at that point, I might get disgruntled and don't get the promotion because I have a crappy attitude. Because I'm jaded about my precious energy and effort not going where I want it to go. And I think a lot of human connection has sadly become around work. What do you do for work? What department are you in? What specialty do you have? What degree do you have? What experience? Blah, blah, blah. And then you hire them and they look good on paper and they don't get along with people. They want to correct people. They want to go against whatever the manager is saying. That was me. Because I knew better and I knew a better way to do the work. But then a lot of different things happened for me to get out of that environment, let's just say. And I'm not someone who shrinks myself. I'm not someone who pretends that I don't know. I'm not someone who just bows down to others because of their title. I don't care. I don't give a blank. And this is also a challenge because I have such a high IQ. And I'm going to take an IQ test next year for certain. because I'm tired of being projected on and told that I'm ignorant or, not smart or whatever. Because people want to have an issue with me and, want me to be small or want me to be walking in their footsteps or following whatever they say. And it's like, I don't care. I don't care. You have experience and knowledge in other things that are just not important. I follow my intuition and my inner guidance, which comes from spirit. So at the end of the day, if I followed you, I would be misleading myself. So, sorry, I just wanted to check my charge. My phone's done charging. Ugh, my phone is done charging. Excuse me. 100%, right? And it's like, I genuinely don't care if someone crashes out or shows their true colors or lets their mask slip, so to speak. Like, genuinely, I do not care what someone does. I don't care what spirit comes out. I don't care. I don't care at all. Because when I do care, I'm on you. When I do care, I'm in your face. And then you don't like it. Then you don't like my attention. Then you don't like my perspective. Then you don't like what I have to say because you ran from the truth. And now you're sick. Or losing things in your life and you don't feel like whatever. I don't know. But I think it's just genuinely frustrating that people don't see the value in others just because of how they look or because of their age. Because I'm not my appearance. You don't know me just by looking at a picture of me. You don't understand me just by watching one video of me either. I'm very multifaceted. I'm very layered. I'm very accomplished mentally. I'm a mental athlete. And again, not to get into my personal life or anything like that, but I've overcome a lot of things that would have broken others. And a lot of family members have shown me that they didn't want to pass that test. They didn't want to alchemize that pain in the way that it was needed to. They didn't want to face their shadow. It's like, pass the torch to me. They said, here, go ahead. Pass the baton. Here, continue the race. Pass down their gifts. And that's why I say what I say about Indigenous living. And that's what I say about being a grounding coach and not wanting to assimilate. I don't. Even though I'm pale right now, December 25th. I go outside and you see my melanin. You see the sun reflect off my skin. It's actually, I think, like 70 something degrees outside. I don't want to check the weather right now, but it's very nice out. Global warming, climate change, all that stuff. But I spend a lot of time in nature to just keep that connection, to keep that peace, to stay grounded. Because the relationships that I've been given in my life completely ungrounded me at moments. Completely. And I'm still retrieving parts of my mind from certain situations and abuse that I've went through, but I did not want to cry. I cried enough yesterday because, going to that Christmas Eve party, going back to that, I was like, I don't celebrate Christmas. And I didn't say the prayer with them. I didn't even hold hands. I didn't say amen. I didn't do the Secret Santa thing. I literally just, they called my name. I put my hand on top of a box and then I went back inside. Like, I'm not doing it. It was entertaining. Yeah. Did I laugh a few times? Yeah, but I don't believe in stuff outside of myself anymore, truly. And even though I am in this, vessel, I am a spirit above this. I'm a spirit before any of this. Just as you are watching, just as we all are. And yes, absolutely, there are disembodied spirits that test you, that try to tempt you, that try to, like that snake, rearrange natural order. But nature prevails. Nature always wins. Nature keeps things in order, in balance, cosmically, divinely. Ma'at, just like Ma'at. Divine order and cosmic balance, justice. And if you've ever stepped outside of your natural order and your balance and your spiritual understanding, didn't you get corrected? Right, absolutely. So, I say all that to say, sometimes you do have to compromise for others, but most of the time, you have to go within. And even though my grandmother was conversational, talkative, a little feisty at sometimes, my goodness, she tried to call me a nickname. I was like, Jazziel. She's like, I called you this for 27 years. I was like, ugh. And then she, like, I was just looking at the food in the kitchen, and she, like, kind of hugged me on my shoulders from behind me. I was like, oh, goodness. Anyway, not to send negative energy, but that's literally, like, the type of people in my family, like, on my mother's side, never learned emotional regulation. So, most of the time at that Christmas Eve party, I was just observing. And 1/3 of it was talking to my cousins. And my little 6-year-old cousin that didn't remember me from going to their older sister's quinceañera a few years ago, but I'm like, you were 3 years old, Like, you're not going to remember it. But she made me laugh, and I was talking to her, and we were kind of poking each other. It was kind of funny. Oh, something got in my eye. But talking to a 6-year-old really, like, changes your perspective on life a little bit. Like, I don't know how long I sat and talked to her, because, boy. But then she was like, oh, let's race. And I had to throw away my socks from yesterday because they got so dirty. But both of us raced in just our socks in the backyard, and we ran from fence to fence like 3 times before she was like, give me a head start. I'm like, then it's not a race anymore. And then I still gave her a head start. She's like, wait, let me go first. And I'm like, okay, I see what's going on, and I did that the 4th time around, and I still won. So I was like, you know what, I'm tired, I'm not doing this anymore. And then yeah, the night progressed, but anyway, it was just very strange being with people that talk so negatively about me before and wanted to have an intervention with me and wanted to just assassinate my character to mention me having a birthday that just passed recently, or to want me to be included in the Secret Santa, or even ask for a hug. I was like, I literally only hugged my grandmother that night, by the way. So yeah, and I had an excuse too. When I first came there, my hair, I had just taken a shower and my hair was still drying, so I put it in a towel. And I brought my hair dryer and diffuser with me. And I was like, oh, my hair is wet. I don't want to get it on you. And I had my literally towel on my head, holding it with one hand. So, yeah. But it's also like, it's kind of funny how people are so unaware of their own patterns and the ways that other families and people live, that it's like, oh, we're used to dysfunction, or we're used to talking to each other like this. We were just joking or whatever, and it's like, that wasn't funny to me, or wow, that was messed up. So I just observed a lot. Like, I observed, my aunt cussing out her son over nothing. He even said, he's like, you're getting mad over hair. And then it's funny because I'm like, he's dealt with the bullshit, with the BS so much from his parents that he's just like gray rocking it, like not giving it any light. Like, you're getting mad over blank. You're getting mad over this. And it's like, it's so apparent. It's so apparent. Like, oh yeah. And then I have another uncle who just has a girlfriend and a dog and smokes every day. And that's his life. Lives with family and the dog and goes to work, smokes, does whatever, Had the awareness, didn't fully harden his heart, but didn't beat the addiction. And I can't speak on his emotional intelligence or very much of how he interacts with other people, because I don't really know them that much. These people don't have a lot of depth to them, so I just observed. And I listened to Spirit. Spirit said, your grandmother's going to pass soon. Watch your words. And that's it. The partner that my mom is with and lives with brought their household and, a few of their family there and the friends that they invited. And I'm like, okay. It wasn't fully blood. It wasn't people that were married. It wasn't people that we respected. People were just quiet and they didn't argue. And, if you had a problem with someone, just don't look at them. Don't talk to them. So, that's what it was yesterday. If my cousins weren't there, I would not have shown up. Promise. Thank you, promise. So, I don't know. That's kind of what I have been going through, what I've been dealing with, and I'm not even fighting people anymore. Genuinely, I spent so much time trying to make my point, trying to argue, trying to talk to people, get to know them, get to the root of the issue. No. Not anymore. Because another thing that the Buddha taught me was observe, don't absorb. And secondly, change is the only constant in life. Only constant. I was looking at my, at the time for this, is like 2 minutes left. I'm going to wrap up the stream shortly, but change is the only constant in life. So being attached to a relationship, being attached to a person, being attached to a personality or career or an addiction, anything will ruin you eventually. If it's aligned, obviously it will not ruin you. But if it's something that you're just going with the wind, you're just, you know, doing what other people are doing, that change, when it comes, will shake your entire foundation. Right? It will cause a lot of emotional distress, and you'll feel like you are in chaos. But when you observe situations or environments or habits or people or whatever it is for what they are, you don't absorb that energy back. So I could be in the midst of chaos and still feel at peace. I could hear a mother cussing out her child and arguing with them and not want to step in. I could see a sick, dying person and watch them eat certain things or not listen to certain advice. And
what difference does it make when a client is mad?
Literally, that's the energy. What difference does it make is what that person might be thinking. But to me, okay, look at it for what it is and let it go. Because at a certain point in my journey, and by a certain point I mean 2 years ago, a year and a half ago to last year, because it was a while. Spirit really had to sit me down through natural order, right, through Ma'at. But I was going through spiritual narcissism, spiritual bypassing, feeling like I was better than others because I was more enlightened or more awakened to certain things. And that's never a place to be, because it's temporary. You're always knocked off that high horse, right? Nature always comes in and moves things around, right? And if you are a human and you are living inside of flesh today, you have stuff to work on. And sometimes the stuff to work on is just accepting and letting time pass and moving on to the next thing. And when you're at a point of being so comfortable with yourself and you don't care what people think, and you're really tapped into your inner child and you're creative and you don't give a about what society says, and you just have that positive high vibration, things happen because your beliefs structure your reality. Ugh. Confirmation, excuse me. That is why holy texts and books and philosophy and anthropology speak so much about the hearts and the minds of people, right? They speak so much about relationships and how civilizations were built and how morals and principles and rights and wrongs, because it is the very way that people live and think and the way that they practice their livelihood. That's how society is made. That's how a family is built. That's how the foundation is laid, through the thoughts that create the action that creates the habit. That habit creates the pattern, and that pattern creates the cycle. And that cycle that you're in dictates your life in that moment. Right? And I want to quickly grab something and then I will end stream. So, 1 second. And I'm going to share this before I leave. The Eightfold Path. This was a handout. That's why it's in this laminated thing, because I was handing this out at the community workshops I did. But this is why the Eightfold Path and Buddhism is a way of life. It's not a religion. You could just do this and be a Buddhist. Like, literally. You don't have to wear an anenju. You don't have to go to temple. You don't have to do anything if you just follow the Eightfold Path. And what is this? Wheel. It represents the 8 spigots for the Eightfold Path here. So, if you cannot read it, that's fine. I'll read it to you. And it says, striving to live each day of my life with compassion and wisdom, I will endeavor to follow the Buddha's Eightfold Noble Path. And the path is, having the right views leads to the right thoughts. Having the right thoughts leads to the right speech. Having the right speech leads to the right conduct. Having the right conduct leads to the right livelihood. Having the right livelihood leads to making the right effort. Making the right effort leads to the right mindfulness. And having the right mindfulness leads to the right meditation. And what Christians say is that their actions are a prayer to God. So this is the explanation of what I do and what I act upon is the prayer, or the way that I give thanks to a higher power. And Buddhists don't label anything as God or have a name for God. And I've really been able to feel grounded in that, especially as someone who's mixed ethnicity, because it's tradition on this side and it's tradition on that side, and it's like colonization swirled up that stuff. So it's like, that's why I'm interested in anthropology too, because it's like so much was just hidden under assimilation and colonization, and people thinking they're more righteous because of their skin color. Crazy concept that the world built that upon, right? I could say so much about that, right? But anyway, following the natural order and going within to really, get to the root of the issue, and, letting their foundation be built off of the right things. Not that I'm going to label anything as right or wrong, because we all need to learn lessons in life. So whatever the right views and the right conduct and the right livelihood is for you personally, is what you should follow. And that's my whole thing. I want to help people through life coaching, through personal training, through understanding the mind and the body and the heart, brain, and gut coherence and spiritual alignment. That's what I want to do. I want to help people. I don't want to live in a society that their legacy is sickness and confusion. And that's how I feel. Because when you integrate and you do the melting pot thing and you do the whole, I don't see color, I don't see race, you're just setting that foundation to crumble. Because when you don't acknowledge race, I'm not saying that, but when you don't acknowledge culture and history and the truth behind what people do in their practices, and you instead just listen to whatever some religious person told you, or what the colonizer said about the slave, right? Or what the dictator said about a small village and what they practiced, everything looks wrong. Everything looks bad, right? And then you take those people who've lost their connection to what's natural and you say, go here and do this and listen to this, or you're in trouble, or you're outcasted. Then that's when the internal confusion and sickness comes in. And a lot of people who've turned their back against culture and their ancestors and natural order are paying the price now. And that will not be me. And it will never be me to go outside of the natural order. I learned already. I learned. And every time I don't listen to spirit or my intuition, and I'm like, what's that? Oh no, that was something else. Was that my intuition? Oh no, let me just listen to my flesh. Let me listen to my family. Let me listen to external. That's the biggest mistake you can make, truly. Yet we continue making these mistakes and going in these cycles and following the confusion. And then we wonder why we're always searching outside of ourselves. Why we don't trust ourselves, why we second guess ourselves so much. Right? And we look to be led. We look to be led instead of leading ourselves. But you know, you can still practice self-discipline and strengthen your relationship with yourself. Mindfulness, meditation, grounding, right? They all give you a direction to go in and a path to follow right back to yourself. But it's very important that you love yourself above all the noise, above the opinions, above the chatter, above the projections, above the world. Because to me, I love myself enough to ostracize, not to ostracize, sorry, wrong word. I love myself to distance myself from others who want to ostracize me. Let me say it like that. I love myself enough to quit a job that was giving me stability and benefits and was full-time. I love myself enough to stop going round and round on a merry-go-round with family. I love myself enough to understand when I'm self-sabotaging and I need to stop. And I face the music and I deal with the consequences and I let the natural order correct what it needs to. But I would really rather people come to me if they feel lost, if they feel sick, if they feel like they don't know how to fix their life. And it's taken me a while to not view myself again as that controlling or better than others perspective. And I've been contemplating actually taking a vow of silence and becoming a monk. Because I just feel like it would be easier to live that way. But I also feel like I need to just go further within. But then another part of me is like, I want to just express and make art and write poetry and create things. So yeah, I just follow my intuition though. And I'm waiting for a few other things to come in before I make some final decisions that are life changing, life altering, right? Talking about living in a different country, strict devotion to my practices, and confirmation stomach growl. And I almost finished my tea too, actually. But I don't want to follow dogma or tradition or rituals all my life when I know that I could just leave. I could just stop doing what everybody else is doing. Or I could just set myself apart and follow what Spirit is telling me. And again, if this is the only life I have and my last life, in terms of speaking in reincarnation, then why would I care about anyone? Why would I care about their perspectives? Why would I care about what they want me to be when I could just let it go? And I'm even thinking about that with technology and phones and social media and websites and having to remember all these freaking passwords and write things down and remember to check these things and oh, I need a break from this, or oh, I don't want to post, and all of the technology and things that they're trying to ramp up to take humans into a different world. Total. Not even a different mindset, not even a different practice. Just take them completely out of their intuition. Oh, here's something that you could ask any question and it'll give you an answer. Oh, here's something that could help you with this project. Here's something that could help you with this website. Here's something that could help you be a content creator now. And it's like, if the world is trying to replace humanity and consciousness with technology and someone else making the choice for you, I'd rather just go and be a monk. Be someone who lives off the land. Be someone who just moves and lives in a forest or lives in the mountains, in a jungle, and just live the rest of my days in silence and peace. And just write. But my soul's blueprint is that of a teacher and a healer. I know I'm here to pass on wisdom because of everything that I've experienced in these 27 years. But I know this period of being uncomfortable was to learn about myself and to get back into mindfulness and understand the parts of my family that I'm like and the parts of my family that I'm not like, and have transformed that pain into medicine. And I don't carry myself as the sage and the magi and the generational curse breaker that I am. Again, with my stomach. But again, I know I'm more than my appearance. And I don't look like what I've been through. There is a divine design for all of these things. And nature will run its course. And divine order will always be there. No matter what humans do, no matter what we think of each other, no matter how we act in this world, the earth and nature and cosmic order, Ma'at, always prevail. No matter what is underneath it, family, religion, government, technology, dogma, tradition, civilization, no matter what's underneath it, or should I say on top of it, on top of the earth, it doesn't matter. It doesn't. If I step out of line, I'm corrected. Just like if I don't do something that was meant to heal me, it shows up again until I do it. And the energy that we carry is embodied externally. So if something's off, I see it. I feel it within and I see it externally. And some things I'm meant to notice and let it pass. And that's that. I need to keep my energy high though. So I want to say thank you. Thank you to all of the people that have subscribed, commented, liked, watched my videos, watched my live replays, watched my YouTube shorts, watched or read the community posts that I do, watched my TikToks. If you're from TikTok. But I'm a very deep thinker. As you can see, almost 2 hours of me talking. So, I'm never going to be surface level. Small talk. I'm not going to fit into someone else's mold either. I gotta be me. Follow my blueprint. And if I had one message to the world, to the people watching, is be yourself and follow your blueprint. Because we all have a unique purpose and design. And don't let anyone try to assimilate your design. We're not all meant to be the same. There's no perfect person. Ever. There was never a perfect person. The only time that we are close to perfection is when we listen to our intuition and follow what Spirit says. But perfection to me might look like imperfection to someone else. That is why I say no one's ever perfect. No one. Just like no one's ever innocent. You cannot be innocent for your entire life. It's just the way things are today. So, again, thank you for all the support this year. I'm still hoping for 150 subscribers. I'm a few away. I'm trying to think. I checked it recently. I think it was 146. So literally a few away. But thank you to those who care and are willing to do that inner work and be themselves. Unapologetically, and unwilling to assimilate. Please stay strong.